I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it's a pleasure to have you guys all here from 3 different states coming together today for a wonderful educational opportunity for you guys as part of our new initiative titled Heart of a Hall of Famer. And what we really mean by that is when we start talking about our Hall of Famers, it can be said for most of our Hall of Famers, if their God-given ability wasn't in pro football, they would have been successful at some other endeavor in life. They'd have been a Hall of Fame plumber, Hall of Fame lawyer, Hall of Fame teacher, Hall of Famer, whatever life threw at them. Because at the core of who they are is their character, their integrity, their ability to persevere through adversity, their leadership, their friendship, their trustworthiness, their respect, all those 6 pillars that hopefully you guys studied before here. They reflect all those character qualities. So that's what the program's focuses on today. And I think there's no better example of that from our Hall of Famers than the gentleman that I have sitting here to my right as a person of great character. So we're extremely pleased to have you guys here today. You guys really have a wonderful opportunity to interact with one of the greatest football players that ever played. Now, I know you guys are younger, so maybe you haven't heard of this guy, Joe DeLamielleure, but when you start talking about the players today, the names like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning and all the great players, whether on the quarterback or offensive lineman, whatever they are, they aspire to be what he is, and that's a Hall of Famer. So those big names you hear today, they hope to someday be in Joe DeLamielleure's shoes and be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you guys have a wonderful opportunity to ask of him what it took to get there. What obstacles, what roadblocks did you encounter? Because I'm sure, as he shared with the group earlier, there were a lot of roadblocks from elementary school all the way up through high school into college, and even when he first signed with the Buffalo Bills during his rookie year. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you guys to be able to talk and interact with Joe DeLamielleure. So before we kick things over to Joe, there are a few individuals we'd like to recognize. First of all, I want to say again thank you to all the schools, but also the group that is bridging this call today, ETech, Derek and Michelle and Aaron and all those folks that serve for the state of Ohio as a tech support. I want to say thank you for making this connection possible. And as well as this program is being recorded by Tamberg TCS System, friends at Tamberg and Lance Ford in Oklahoma and all those guys for recording this, so we can make this available to you guys if you want to eventually, if you want to send DVDs, copies of this, we can do that afterwards. So thank you to all those folks for making this program possible. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker, our guest speaker here today. Joe DeLamielleure, and I'll read directly from his bio just so I don't mess anything up. He was selected by the Bills in the first round in the 1973 draft. He was All-America at Michigan State. He won all rookie honors, durable, played in 185 consecutive games, anchored the Bills' famed line Electric Company, best known as the lead blocker for O.J. Simpson, who was the game's first 2,000-yard rusher. You guys may have seen Chris Johnson rush for 2,000 yards last year. He blocked for the first person to ever rush for 2,000 yards, and he was the anchor of that line. He was selected All-Pro and All-AFC 1975 through 1980, named to 6 Pro Bowls, and named to the NFL's 1970s All-Decade team. And that's quite an honor to say. During that 10-year period, he was the very best at his position. And not only that, off the field, he's been quite successful. Married, has 9 kids, he'll say, 4 biological, 2 adopted, and 3 you're raising. So he's got 9 kids. And he was actually, it's kind of ironic, he was the 9th of 10 kids in his family. And there's a whole host of things that Joe's, and I think we'll probably, instead of going into those, because I think you're going to touch on a lot of them today, just a whole host of activities that Joe's been involved with, and as he'll talk about, he's very giving of his time, even though he's not the type that boasts about those kind of things, but someone that's been involved with so many different things, volunteering for a lot of different stuff. So before I turn things over to Joe, just in case you guys never saw any footage of him, let's take a look at him in his prime and look at quick video we have for you.
Guard Joe DeLamielleure was the anchor of two all-time great offensive lines. The electric company in Buffalo turned on the juice, running back O.J. Simpson. Joe also led an offensive line in Cleveland that blocked for NFL MVP Brian Sipe and 1,000-yard rusher Mike Pruitt. DeLamielleure would never miss a single game in his entire NFL career, one that was filled with personal awards. An 8-time All-Pro, he played in 6 Pro Bowls and was named the Offensive Lineman of the Year in 1975.
So please join me and give a round of applause to Class of 2003 Pro Football Hall of Famer Joe DeLamielleure. You can unmute your mics for the time. Give him a round of applause. Virtual round of applause.
Best an offensive lineman, offensive applaud. If it was a running back, they'd be cheering, standing up on the chair. But that's the way it is. I'm glad to be here today. We did this 1 hour earlier, and had a lot of good questions, a lot of fun, and try to keep you awake. I see a lot of guys sleeping there, maybe, or almost sleeping, but we will do our best to keep you awake. My story in my life is that I will be very brief. I was born in Detroit. I'm the 9th of 10 kids. I'm the only child in my family to go to college. My mother went to 8th grade. My dad went to 3rd grade, and he had his own business. He ran a bar right outside the factories in Detroit. We were open 7 in the morning till 2:30 at night, 7 days a week. Closed Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter. And we worked the kids. He would probably get arrested for child labor laws now, but we all worked in that bar. And the ironic thing about that, none of us drank. Not one person in my family. My mom and dad never drank, and none of the kids drank. Or now we're adults, but never had a beer actually my whole life. I don't think. No, I know I didn't. But anyhow, that's my life. I went to Catholic school, which I think one of the schools there are Catholic. 12 years. Went to Michigan State, and proudly say I graduated in 4 years, right on time. Played football during that time, got drafted by the Bills, and played 13 years in the National Football League. My family is, I have 4 biological children. I adopted 2 Korean boys, and my oldest is 38, and my youngest is 25. And now we have 8 grandkids. So I've been around kids my whole life. And I think when I got inducted in the Hall of Fame, my brothers and sisters and my wife's brothers and sisters, just their families, just our families with their children, we had 187 people here. So we may have broke a record for that. But other than that, we could open this up to questions. Like I said, I graduated in criminal justice. I kind of pride myself on doing a lot of other things than just have played football. The one thing I also am proud of is that through all the times that I've played football and we've had children and everything, I've kept my sense of humor. So got to have a lot of laughs. I coached high school too, 5 years of high school and 8 years of college. I coached at Duke University and Liberty University. But if you have some questions, I'll be glad to answer them, and then I think that leads good conversation.
Okay, and the way we'll work it, I'll kind of just be a voice in the background. I'm going to moderate the program, and we are going to go in the order. So Holy Angels, be thinking of your questions. In a moment here, I'm going to ask you to open up the program with your questions. We'll go through. We have 3 schools, Holy Angels, West St. John, and Mountain Gap. We will work in that order, keep rotating through. The first time through, we will go to 2 questions from each school, and then after that, we'll go to 1. I guesstimate probably get to about 5 or 6 questions from each school, since we only have 3 sites connected for this one. So be prepared, be ready, and like I said, I'll ask we'll ask Holy Angels, open it off. If you can unmute your mics, and feel free to ask your question.
Here, Ms. Lewis has it.
As a child, what events in your life do you believe helped shape you into the man you are today?
As a child, first of all, my brothers and sisters in my family that I grew up in, also the school that I went to 12 years I went to a Catholic school in the neighborhood. That's what formed my personality in that. I'm the 9th of 10, so I always looked up to my older brothers and sisters, and my dad taught us how to work. I said my dad always, he'd get up at like 5:30 in the morning and go open up this bar, and they'd be serving factory workers all day. Bowl of chili and a cheeseburger, and that was about it, a bag of chips and a beer or else a Coke. My dad taught me how to work. My mother, I said this in my Hall of Fame speech, my mother taught us teamwork. One bathroom, no lock, and 10 kids. You learn how to share. And you know what's important, that priorities is courtesy first. When you have 10 kids in a family, you got to have order in that house, or else it'd be chaos. And also the teachers, that the most important people to me in my life really have been coaches and teachers in my family. And I can look back and say my 6th grade teacher had a huge effect on my life, my high school coach, and then some of the coaches that I played for in college and pro football. But teachers were a big factor in my life.
Okay, great question. Let's have another one from you guys, Holy Angels. What inspired you to play football?
What inspired me to play football? When we were kids, we played everything. It was football season, we played football, then basketball, baseball. I just kind of fell into it, to tell you the truth. When I was in high school, I was probably one of the bigger kids, but I played fullback and linebacker, and football in Detroit was real important at that time, and my older brothers played, so I wanted to be like my older brothers. They were like my role models in my childhood, who I wanted to be like. And then I just watched them play, and then when we would play, my brothers would make sure that I was never on their team so they could beat me up, like make me tough. And so it kind of inspired me to play against those guys, because as I grew older, I always say, yeah, okay, I want to take on the older kids and play with the older guys. And football is a game where you could, I don't know, knock each other around and have fun and still be buddies when it's all over. That's what inspired me. My brothers, basically, and being in that environment of the Catholic school and the tradition of the Catholic school. We had a great high school coach who's in the Michigan Hall of Fame as a coach. And as a kid, you want to be like the kids around you, so that's what inspired me.
And I'll follow up with a question to that, because you've touched on a few things from those days in Ohio. One of the things you touched on earlier with the other session is that a lot of times young people want to hold athletes up as role models, and you seem to be reflecting on the fact that it was the people that actually surrounded you that had, were your role models.
When I grew up, I was a Detroit Tiger fan and Detroit Lion fan and Detroit Piston. I'm like all kids. I watched professional athletes, but I never in my life looked at one guy and said, well, I want to be like him. It wasn't like kids, like I want to be like Michael Jordan, or I want to be like Drew Brees or whoever. I just wanted to be myself. And then when I was playing, I enjoyed playing so much. I didn't really worry about anything else but just playing the game that day, whatever, maybe baseball, basketball. I just loved to play. And then, because my older brothers, they kind of messed up when they were in school, and you kids got to understand this. They didn't do well enough in school to go to college. They kept telling me, you got to get your grades. When my report card would come, my parents weren't the first people to look at it, my brothers and sisters were, because they knew that my brothers always said, you're different than the rest of us. You're bigger, you're faster, and you can beat up all the kids in the neighborhood. So they said, you're going to have a chance to go to college if you get your grades. So that whole thing was always, made important to me, that if I didn't get the grades, I knew from day one I wasn't going to get an opportunity to go to college.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Holy Angels. If you can mute your mics for the time being, let's go Louisiana, West St. John. If you guys have a couple of questions, go ahead.
Hello? Hi.
Since becoming a member of the Football Hall of Fame, do you think that you are better able to give to your community?
Oh, we're going to have you guys, you got to speak up really loud and clearly.
Loud.
Since becoming a member of the Football Hall of Fame, do you find that you are better able to give to your community?
Good question.
Well-
They asked it, now that you're a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, are you find you're able to do more things for your community? And
Yes,
Great question.
absolutely. It took me 13 years. It didn't take. I never thought I'd get in the Hall of Fame, but I was eligible for 13 years to get in, and then when I finally got in, I actually I said a little prayer. I pray a lot, and I'll tell you about that as I go along. But I said, God, if I ever do make the Hall of Fame, I'm not going to bring glory to myself. I'm going to use it as a platform to help other people. And that's exactly what I've been trying to do ever since I got in the Hall of Fame, because to get in the Hall of Fame, the few great people that are really great, Walter Payton, Joe Green, there's just certain individuals that are, yeah, they're in the Hall of Fame from day one. Then there's a lot of guys it takes a while to get in. You're a good player, but it takes you a while. I think the longer it takes you to get in, the more grateful you are. And when you get in, you realize that for some reason, you were in the right place at the right time. I played on great teams, but the players that I played with, O.J. Simpson and Brian Sipe, I'm sure you all heard of O.J. Simpson, but Brian Sipe, and there's some other players that were just tremendous players, and I was fortunate enough to be on that team, and that's how you get in the Hall of Fame. If I played on a really bad team as an offensive guard, I'd never gotten in the Hall of Fame, but I played with great players, and it enabled me to get my name out there to get in the Hall of Fame. So the question is, has it enabled me to do a lot? Absolutely. If I was just Joe DeLamielleure, not the Hall of Famer, I wouldn't be sitting here. I won't be talking to people like yourself. I won't be having the opportunities to do things for retired players trying to get their pensions up if you're just a guy who had played football but not in the Hall of Fame. It opens a lot of doors for everybody, and I appreciate it.
Great question. Great question. Let's go to another one from you guys, Louisiana.
How has your life changed since the Football Hall of Fame?
How has my life changed since the Football Hall of Fame? You won't believe this, you girls sitting there. When I got in the Hall of Fame, because I can see the girl asked a question. She's cute. You see her in the other class. There you go. Cute girl. But when I got in the Hall of Fame, before I got in the Hall of Fame, I had a white-collar crime committed against our family, and we lost all of our money with all those kids. So we went to rock bottom. We had moved out of our house. We were renting a house. I was coaching, and all of a sudden I get a call from the Hall of Fame. I had $300 in the bank at that point with all of our kids, and my wife and I were going week to week, working just like everyone else. Then when I got in the Hall of Fame, it gave me a chance to, I don't know, redo our life, basically. You can go around, you can do speaking engagements. I do a company where I work people out with these exercise bands all the time, and it really helped. And from that, I became very appreciative and also very aware that there are a lot of people out there who need a lot of help. Like, I don't know if these kids got the opportunity to look at our orphanage bike ride. Me and my two college roommates last spring rode from Michigan State University to Matamoros, Mexico. We have an orphanage with about 40 kids in there. And we rode a bicycle like 120 miles a day for 18 days, 2,000 miles in 18 days. And we raised money for an orphanage that we have. We got like 30 or 40 kids in there right now. And if I weren't in the Hall of Fame, that would not have happened, because I would have had to be working every single day. I do things with the Buffalo Bills. I do a radio show up there and do some other things with the Buffalo community. And that won't happen if I weren't in the Hall of Fame. I'd be just like a lot of other retired players, just trying to figure out how to make a living. And it's tough out there right now.
And I think you guys will find, and we'll go to the next question to Mountain Gap in just a second here, but I think what you'll find in everything that Joe's done, at the core of that is his character. I mean, those same qualities that it took to become a Hall of Fame player. It's the same qualities that took him to rebound when he was victim of a white collar crime. That same type of perseverance and that dedication to a goal, and everything else that he's done. He literally would probably tell you that he didn't know how to ride a bike before he did that 2,000-mile bike trip.
I never rode a bike.
A bicycle, not a
motorbike. I mean, I'm talking about a bicycle you pedal. I never rode a bike, like maybe 2 or 3 times my whole life. We lived in Detroit, 10 kids. We didn't have bikes. So my college roommate said, hey, we want to do a bicycle ride to Mexico. Will you do it? I said, absolutely. Then I thought, I never rode a bike, but it can't be that hard. little did I know how hard it would be. But I started training with a girl she was ranked 10th in the United States. Well, 2 weeks before that trip, I never even got on a bike before then. But I did it. We had a saying on our shirt. It's from St. Francis of Assisi. It says, "Do what's necessary, do what's possible. Suddenly, you do the impossible." And that's just what you kids are doing in school right now. Do what's necessary. You got to get your grades. Do what's possible. You can get them. And then suddenly, if you do that and do it the best you can, suddenly you'll look back and you'll have done the impossible. You might be the best in your class, or you might get a scholarship for this or that. But if you do the best you can, you're going to surprise even yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you, West St. John. Let's go to Alabama. Mountain Gap. You can unmute your mics.
Kevin.
How were you able to establish a relationship with your children while working?
While working.
How were you able
establish
to establish a relationship with your children while you were working?
I don't know. I think how I established that is I just kind of followed how my mother and dad treated me and how our family was treated. And my wife is the oldest of 8. Her father was a fire chief, and then my wife and I have never not known each other. We walked to school since first grade together, and we're real good friends. And when I was a sophomore in college, I said, I better ask that girl out, and I asked her out, and we got married the next year. But we were friends the whole time. And my wife and I, when we got married, we always said we wanted to have a large family because we both came from large families. And I realized that it takes 2 people to make a child. It also takes 2 people to raise a child. That's what I've always thought, and that's what my wife's always thought. So I pitched in. I did what I had to do. If I had to throw clothes in laundry, or the only thing I don't do is cook. I'll do anything else. I'll wipe floors. I'll do the laundry. I'll do whatever I have to do to get it done. And I think my son gave me a thing this weekend. We got put up on a wall in Cleveland, the Hall of Famers. And my son, I have 4 biological kids. I adopted 2 Korean boys. My youngest Korean son played on the South Korean national lacrosse team. He played lacrosse here in the U.S. and then went there. But he had a picture of him playing lacrosse, my own son, my biological son, who played at Duke, and then myself, all in football pictures. And basically the saying was, we didn't do as you said, we did as you did, or as you do. It's not what you say to your children, it's what you do to show them. Because what you say, anybody can say anything. You got to be the guy. If I tell my kids don't drink, and I drink, or I spank my children and abuse them, I tell them don't abuse each other, how are they going to do that when they see me doing it? So I always try to be an example for my children, just like my parents were. And when I got that picture from my son, I said, that picture means more to me than just about any award I ever got, because here's a kid who's doesn't even look like us. He feels a part of our family, and it's not what I said, it's what I did. He watched what I did, and he watched what my wife does, and that's how you coach. That's how you teach. That's how you do everything. Teachers, they're not going to ask you something that they won't want to do themselves or can't do themselves. So that's my philosophy on it.
And would you say it was your responsibility to do that?
Absolutely, it's my responsibility. When you take on children, it's one thing having a child of your own. When you get a child, they fly over from Korea and they hand you this little baby and it doesn't even look like you. That's when you realize, oh my God, this is a big job. This isn't something that's part-time. It's full-time, and it's going to last your whole life. And your kids will see as you grow up, and your parents will see, the worst time to get a phone call is like 11 o'clock at night when you have children and they can drive in that, because you just go to the phone and you say, dear God, please make it not be anything tragic, not an accident or something like that. And that's your whole life. And my mother always said, you're as happy as your happiest child and as sad as your saddest child. And so that's how life goes.
Great. And I think you guys will find as he's saying these, you start referring back to your 6 pillars of responsibility and trustworthiness and respect and all these things. You'll see how they intertwine in everything that
and I think one of the biggest traits you could have that one thing that kind of runs through everything, the thread that runs through everything, is honesty. Be honest with yourself and be honest with your teammates and your school, the kids you hang around with in school and your friends. If you're honest with them and you're honest with your parents, a lot of good things will happen. When you're dishonest, a lot of bad things are going to happen.
Okay, Mountain Gap, you have another one?
How many years did you play football, and when and why did you retire?
I played football, professional football, for 13 years, but I started playing in 5th grade, so I played till I was 35 years old. And everybody, wow, that's pretty old. But the reason I retired was, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, in 1985 they just started taking steroids. A lot of players are taking steroids and growth hormones. I never took one, and I never would, because I said, you don't go work football. Your parents go to work. Your teachers work. You go play football. If I have to take a pill or a drug to play a sport, then it's not a sport. And at that time, I weighed about 260, 258, somewhere in that. The rest of the league was getting to be like 290, 300 pounds. And there was either a leap in evolution or somebody found a pill. And I said, I'm not going to play those games. So I just retired in 1985, when I was 35 years old, because I did not want to cheat playing a game. And that's the bottom line. And that's the only reason I quit. I had never had an injury. I never missed a game or a practice since 5th grade. So I felt I always kind of bitter towards the National Football League, because I think people knew that people were taking drugs and playing, and nothing was being done about it. And I feel like I was cheated out of a couple years of playing where I could have kept playing. But, I'd rather be, like I said, honesty is, I think it's a good characteristic of mine. And if I weren't going to be honest about that, then I didn't want to play. So I played till I was 35.
Great. Well, thank you, Mountain Gap. Let's go back to the top. Holy Angels will go through one question for each school, and maybe you have a question back to these schools as they're talking too.
I got a question. We talk about reputation all the time. Now, if I were to ask you kids a question, and this is like 30 years ago, if I would have said, who's the greatest football player to ever live? The majority of you would say O.J. Simpson. Without question, he would have been the greatest player you've ever seen. Now, as history passes and things happen, if I say O.J. Simpson, what do most of the kids think? Can you answer? What do you think?
He's a killer.
That's it. That's exactly it. Because if he did or didn't do that, his reputation says he did. And he was accused of. He went on trial for that. He didn't get charged with that. Long story short is, people think your reputation is like my mother always would say, it's like crystal. You can have a beautiful piece of crystal, you screw up one time and you drop it, it's shattered, and that's your reputation. That's what happens to you when you can do one. You can be perfect all through school, do one bad thing, all of a sudden you get a bad reputation. So that's important to understand. I learned it firsthand, because when I was playing with O.J. Simpson, he was like the most popular person probably in the country, one of the most popular people, and now he's thought of as just what somebody said there, as a killer. So it's something to think about. Also, when I coached, I'd always tell the kids that I coach, there's 3 things that are going to make you who you are: the books you read, the friends you hang around with, and the movies you watch. I know your family's going to do that, but that's going to really influence your life. Now it's a computer, because you can get anything you want off the computer. So if you hang around with kids who are not doing the right things, you're reading bad books, you're looking at stuff with the computer that you shouldn't be looking at, and you guys know what I'm talking about, and girls know what I'm talking about, that's what you're going to become. And same thing with health. I always worked out. I'm almost 60 years old, and I've always, every day I make sure I exercise, no matter what. No matter how I feel, I'm going to do something. And I kind of take that into my life too. Every day I'm going to try to do something good for somebody, no matter who it is. If it's holding the door open for an old lady with the grocery bags, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do something that makes life a little bit easier for someone else. And if you practice that and do that every day, then the world will be a better place for all of us.
And there's something to be said to that with with your 6 core characters. You talk about caring and citizenship. It feels it's a responsibility to do that. So, like I said, we can always relate these back to those core characters. But Holy Angels, go ahead. You got a question?
Can they turn their mics off after they ask the question? It's hard to hear.
Yeah. Make
when they
sure
speak.
you have the mics muted and after the questions. Thank you. Good point.
You've been here. You're good.
What's your
Okay, now turn it
favorite,
on so you can ask.
Well, go ahead and ask a question first.
what's your favorite thing about playing football?
My favorite thing about playing football is learning how to be on a team. Because football is the ultimate team game. All you have to do is, if I coached too, when I was coaching, and we won a couple state championships, the easy thing was for like the best player to always worry about himself. How many yards did he get? How many touchdowns did he score? This, that's just a natural thing. People want to be recognized for what they do. But when you played football, everyone has a part. Everyone has a place. And I hope some of you saw that orphanage ride we did. Me and my two college roommates, the 3 of us all had a part. John Shinsky, Dr. Shinsky, had the orphanage. He had it built. L.J. Bowen, the director of the Secret Service, he planned the map, the strategy of going there. And I brought some, the thought was I was going to bring some recognition to it because I played in the National Football League and I'm in the Hall of Fame, so it got some notoriety. So people in the media started covering it. So as a result, we got this thing put on CBS Sports before the Final Four, and we've made a lot of money for the orphanage, and we're helping a lot of kids. But in football, it taught me that everybody has a place, no matter lineman. You kids never heard of me, but there's a place on a team for linemen. There's a place on a team for a really fast running back, for a guy who kicks the ball, a guy who punts the ball. There's a place for everybody, and then if you use that in life, everybody's got a talent. Who knows what it is? Some people can sing. Some people, can make a house. They're good with their hands. And my children, all my kids, like I have a son who's from Korea. He came when he was 4 or 5. He had a tough time in school, but God gave him a gift with his hands. He's a welder. He works for Northrop Grumman in Virginia, and he builds aircraft carriers. He makes more money than the kid who went to Duke. He makes $70,000 a year as a welder. Everybody's got a talent. My son at Duke, he's a firefighter. And one of my daughters, she's a 7th grade science teacher. I've got a daughter who's a travel agent. Everybody has a gift that they can give to somebody and help other people. And that's why I like football. I learned that early on in life. Everybody has a talent.
Great. Thank you, Holy Angels. We'll go to West St. John. Let's go to Louisiana.
Where did you find the inspiration to keep going when things did not go your way?
Oh, you're gonna have to speak up a little bit.
No.
Where did you find the inspiration to keep going when things did not go your way?
Where did I find to keep going when things didn't go well? I think that's a lot of things. One is, and I spoke about this in the other session we had, is I have a lot of faith in God. And I think that God puts you in places for reasons. And whatever that reason is, you'll find it if you keep that faith of doing that. Another thing is, I showed the other room this. In 1983, which is a long time ago, I started keeping a diary like this. I don't know if you can see it. There you can see it. But every day when I wake up or when I go to bed, I write what happened that day since 1983. So when all my kids were born, I wrote it not for me but for them so they would know their history. So I'll give you an example. One of my there were some days when my one Korean boy really had a tough time in school because we got him when he was 4 or 5 and he couldn't speak English and he had a tough time. And then as a result of that, he was giving everybody a hard time around him. So I wrote in my book, man, maybe it was a mistake adopting Matt, because I wanted him to see that someday when he could read and understand that it wasn't a piece of cake raising that kid. and I wanted him to understand that we had to work our way through it. And he is. He's a welder now. He's done well. But all the way through, I'd write things about my children, like if somebody did something bad or somebody did something good, I'd write about it. Whatever, how many soldiers got killed in Iraq in 1 month, I write that stuff. And what that taught me was that nothing is as critical as you think it is, and sometimes the least significant thing that you don't think is going to even happen, you'll meet somebody and you'll write, I met so-and-so at an airport. Then 5 years later, you're doing something with that person. A lot of things happen in your life, and if you write it down and you journal it, you understand that things aren't as bad or as good as you think they are. They're somewhere in between. And that's how I handle things. When things went bad, I kept a journal. And then I look back on it, and I always think, God was doing that to teach me a lesson of some sort. And that's how I live my life.
Great.
Hope that answers your question.
Well, thank you.
My wife has a good example, too. She always says, we're kangaroos, me and her. A kangaroo has a big tail, so you can never back up. So you always got to go forward. So just keep thinking forward. Keep thinking in advance.
All right, thank you, West St. John. Let's go to Mountain Gap, Alabama.
Okay, we have one question for you.
How many championship rings do you have?
0. I've never. In high school, we won some championships. In pro football, I never won one. I got 1 ring, and I wear this ring. It's the Pro Football Hall of Fame ring. It's, I don't know if you can get that close or not.
Go ahead and hold it up a little
Well, I
bit.
can't hold it. There it is.
There you
I wear that ring. I thought I'd never wear a ring because I'm not a real jewelry guy. But this ring, to me, it symbolizes not a year. It symbolizes a career. It symbolizes your life. It's not to win a Super Bowl. There a lot of luck is involved, and it takes, one super year. And look at the Saints; they've never even gone to a Super Bowl except one time in their whole history. But if you get in the Hall of Fame, it's a career. It's what you've done year after year, play after play. So I'm always aware that the Super Bowl ring is great, but the Hall of Fame ring is even better.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back up at the top and go back to Dayton, Ohio.
How did you manage to keep your characters through your career?
How did I keep away from injuries?
No, how'd you keep your character during your career?
Oh, my character? I just realized early on in life that I really believe that God's got a plan for you, and I don't think it's to be the greatest football player in the world. I think it's to help as many people as you can. And I think He put me on this earth, this is my belief, is to play football, to help as many people as I can. Because it's not, I don't believe it's about myself. I think it's about how you feel. I was told the other class that my college roommate was director of the Secret Service under Bill Clinton. He was 43 years old. He's met all the important people in the world. And I asked him who the most important person he ever met was, or who the most respected person he ever met was. Who do you think it was? And who do you feel it was? And without question, he said Mother Teresa. And that kind of really, how many, if you can raise your hands there, I'm looking at the screen, how many people know Mother Teresa? Know who she is? How many people heard of her? That's pretty good. Okay, I'll give you another example. How many people heard, raise your hand, and this is, how many people heard of Roger Staubach? A few. I could even go back farther. How many people heard of Joe Ferguson? Very few. Well, anyhow, you must be in Louisiana. Most people, when I said Mother Teresa, everybody raised their hand. All these other, Roger Staubach is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. Not everybody could raise their hand. But Mother Teresa, the whole world knows her. And my buddy said the whole world knows her for this reason. She's helped the most people. And she's 80 pounds. And when she comes, when people go to the airport, they have all this luggage. She comes to this country. She's got a little satchel, like a little duffel bag, with one dress, besides the dress she had on, and one pair of sandals and a toothbrush. That's it. So how can a person who's 4'10" and weighs 80 pounds and only has this much clothes be that important? She's important because she's making the biggest difference in the world, or had made the biggest difference. And I asked him, what was her most amazing quality that you saw in her? He said, I got to tell you, she was one of the funniest people I've ever met. She had the best sense of humor. So what does that tell you? You don't have to be big. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to, be serious all the time. You have to want to help people and have a sense of humor. So when he told me that, I started thinking to myself, those are the people I want to model myself after. It's not about me or you kids or whoever. It's about how much you can give back. And that's, my mother, I said this in the last class, my mother always said she never saw a U-Haul go to a graveyard. So when you see people go get buried, they don't take their possessions with them. So what do you want written on your tombstone? Here's Joe DeLamielleure. He was really rich, or he had 5 houses or whatever. Or you want them to say, man, that guy bicycled to Mexico for some orphans that he didn't even know. He rode 2,000 miles when he was 58 years old to raise some money. That's what I want to be known as. And Joe DeLamielleure, he played football. Yeah, he played football, but he also helped the Special Olympics. That to me that's what's important, and that's what I want to be about. I want to be about someone who makes the community he lives in better, and I want to raise kids who have respect for other people. My mother always told us to treat the janitor like the president, and the president like the janitor, and you'll be successful in life. Nobody's too good, nobody's too bad. Everybody's a human being, and everybody's got qualities.
Great.
I don't mean to preach either. I'm not, but that's how I played football. I respected everybody I played against, and respected the coaches I played for.
Reverend Joe, huh?
No, I'm not Reverend Joe. I'm a Catholic, and I told the other things. I try to go to Mass every day, a lot of times because Mass is a lot shorter on the weekdays and Sundays. And the other thing is I'm taking 20 or 30 minutes out of my day to show that somebody's greater than me, and that we're here for a reason, not to accumulate all these goods.
Great. All right. Thank you, Holy Angels. Let's go Louisiana, West St. John. Another question?
Have you ever been in trouble?
Have I ever been in trouble? No, never have. I've never even had a traffic ticket. Isn't that unbelievable? I've just been. I mean, when we were kids, we'd fight all the time, and I never backed off of a fight when I played. I think I was noted as a tough guy player. I mean, I've been in fights and stuff like on the field too, but to say I went out and got drunk and stole a car or did anything like that, no, I didn't. I had a brother who robbed a bank, went to a federal prison, but he's a good guy now. But I never had to do anything crazy to prove that I was a tough guy. That's how I felt. I thought if you do things the right way, and kids would try to goat you into doing something, that never happened to me. Nobody ever really bothered me. Maybe because I'm bigger than most kids or whatever. I just kind of stuck to myself, did what I believed in doing, and never had a problem.
Okay. Well, thank you, West St. John. Let's go to one more Mountain Gap. Alabama, are you there? Well, maybe they're not. I don't know. Do you have any questions? Do you want to ask any questions back to the group? Maybe we'll start with. I think we already kind of said one to Holy Angels. What about West St. John?
Well, West St. John's, we're looking at. Like, if you think 3 or 4, let's just say 3 years ago, what movie won the Academy Award? Does anybody know?
Yeah.
Nobody knows, but 3 years ago, who was your favorite teacher? Or who was your best friend? There you go. Everybody's got one, right?
Answer.
Everybody's got a friend. Everybody's got a teacher that made a difference in their lives. And that's the whole situation with life. Everybody thinks they want to be a movie star or a Pro Football Hall of Famer or whatever. Like all these movie stars, I see them, they're Gaga or whoever she is, that girl Gaga.
Gaga.
I don't know these people.
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Believe me, 10 years from now, Lady Gaga, you guys will say, yeah, Lady Gaga was my idol. And your kids will say, what? Lady Gaga? Were you nuts? Look at that. You know, that's how it is. But when you talk about a teacher who made a difference in your life, you're going to say, oh my God, yeah, she made me or he made me realize that I could do this or I could do that. And that's the most important thing. People who change your lives for the positive.
Great. Let's go back to Holy Angels. We can probably go to a couple more questions from each school between Holy Angels and West St. John, and if you feel like shooting a question back to them after they.
Yeah, I'm
so
making this sound so serious. When we played football, it was fun. I had fun when we played. We would, you know, like in Cleveland when everybody's going. We taped the games and then we play it back on a VCR. I don't even know if you have a VCR. Is that? Do they play that anymore?
They're around.
Okay, VCR. We play the game back, and the announcer would be saying, "Look they're talking about the play. You know, they're discussing the play. It was a timeout." We'd be counting the people in the stands, and we'd be looking. The guys in the huddle would be saying, "Oh, look at that! Look at that guy here! Look, they're fighting over here." We had a guy who played center for us. He wrote on his hand. It was an exhibition game. His lottery numbers. He bet a lottery ticket. And he told us, and they were going to put it across the scoreboard. He said, "If I win, I'm walking. I'm out of here. I'm not playing another play if you won the lottery." A lot of things go on that people, they think, oh, everything's so big and serious, and most of it's just fun, having a lot of fun. And that's why I like that. I never thought I'd say I like that Ocho Cinco. I like that guy. He has fun playing. And there's a couple characters in football. The guy named John Randall, who just got inducted in the Hall of Fame. All he did was screw around on the football field. That was fun because what your parents do and your teachers do and Jerry does here, that's work. Playing football is just a game. They don't say, let's go work football, do they? Or let's go work baseball. They say, let's go play baseball. Let's go play basketball. So when you play sports, it's fun. And I've always taken it like that. I've never taken it as like a life-changing experience, like, oh, because I played football, this. No, because I played football, I lucked out. I mean, God smiled on me. I never had a serious injury.
Okay, Holy Angels. Question.
What were your goals as a young boy?
My goals as a young boy was to get through the next day. I never set goals like I think you guys look like you're 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and somewhere in there. I never thought of like, what am I going to do when I'm a senior in high school when I was in 9th grade? I just did one day at a time, one play at a time. When I played football, everybody said, what was your goal for the season? I said, I really didn't have a goal. I just had a play. Like, whatever that play is, I tried to get through it. I tried to do the very best I could on that play. And when I coached high school football, we won 2 state championships. I was talking to kids like you, looking at them, and I convinced them that don't worry about anything else but that one play. And here's the example I would give. If you had a spelling test, you guys had a spelling test today, or they gave you 10 words, okay, on Monday, and you studied every day 100 times a day for those words, by Friday, would you know those words inside out? Would you even worry about the test? No, because you're so prepared for it. You go, I wrote that word out 100 times, each word. I know it inside out. That's how I did my life. Like, I just took one play at a time, and I didn't worry about tomorrow. I didn't worry about yesterday, and I didn't worry about tomorrow. I just lived in the present, and the future took care of itself. Me going to college at Michigan State, I went to a school. The school I'm looking at, I'm not sure if it's Catholic. Is that a Catholic school? We didn't even have a lab in our school. I didn't even know what a Bunsen burner was. I had no idea. I had 2 years of language. I was very basic, my knowledge. When I went to Michigan State, because I learned how to study in high school and learned the basics, I kind of breezed through. I actually made academic all Big Ten as a sophomore, and I'm not a smart guy. Believe me, I'm not. All I did is just took one day at a time, and I got through it.
But you worked hard.
I don't know. Does that work when you're reading something? I guess that's work. I don't know what hard work is. Hard work to me is digging a ditch or something. Reading a book or something like that, that is not hard work. Playing football is not hard work. Sitting in class, so you guys are sitting, that's kind of relaxing to me. You're having a ball. And you're around your friends, and you get to eat lunch. I'd look forward to that. But that's how I did my life. What I'm trying to tell you guys, it's not that complicated. It's really not complicated. Do the best you can. Be honest. Do what the pillars tell you. And if you do that, things take care of themselves.
We'll go one more Holy Angels, and then we'll go for two from West St. John, and we'll have closing remarks. About 8 minutes left.
What are your future goals?
Pardon?
What are your future goals?
What are my future goals? My future goal is, like I told you, I don't set long-term goals. So my future goals are really, I need to make a little bit more money. I'm terrible on a computer, so I'm going to learn how to email. Can you believe that? I don't even know how to email. I can get the emails. I'm going to learn how to text too, just a little bit, because I don't want to text too much because it drives me crazy when I go out to eat with my grandkids and that, and I go, would you put that thing down and look at me? Because it drives me crazy. But I am so technically stupid. I'm illiterate when it comes to technology.
I think your daughter had to read the emails that I sent to you.
She does. My daughter does my emails. So, but that's my goal, to be more technical. So next year at this time I could text one of you kids or get on
Maybe
Facebook.
we'll get a Facebook account for you.
There I go, Facebook. There you go.
Maybe we'll send you a couple tweets or something too.
But when you're talking that language, I'm like going left field, and that's not good. So that's my goal.
All right. Well, thank you, Dayton, Ohio. Let's go to Louisiana, West St. John, who's on the screen right now. Got a couple questions?
Okay, go ahead.
What was school like for you, and what would you tell us that could keep us going?
What was school like for me? I went to a school that was built in 1888. It's in Detroit. It's knocked down. They knocked it down now. We had 56 kids. See how many kids you got in your class? My classroom were 56 students in the classroom. And we had, that was each classroom, 56 students with one teacher. And we didn't even change classes all like until 7th or 8th grade. Sat in the same classroom. So my education actually, compared to yours, was not very good as far as what they would say is the quality of kids. You can't have more than 20 kids in a classroom or anything. But when I got inducted in the Hall of Fame, I talked to my 3rd grade teacher. She called me and she said, "You want to know something?" She was still teaching. She said, "Those days at St. Clement were the best days of my life. Those kids had respect for the teacher. They learned, and a lot of them have done very well in life." But school for me was, I didn't realize it until I looked back, until I went to Michigan State University, that I went to an overcrowded school. We used old textbooks. We didn't even have a lab for science, but the teachers taught us a lot, and we had a lot of respect for each other. My classroom was basically overcrowded, bad books, but great teachers, and we learned a lot, and a lot of discipline. We had more discipline than people do nowadays. If you screwed around, they take you in the cloakroom and spank you. They don't do that now. You'd be in trouble. The cloakroom is where you hung up all your coats. If you went to the cloakroom, you were in trouble. But times have changed.
All right, one more question. The very last question of the program. The pressure's on. It's 4th and goal, 4th quarter. 30 seconds on the clock. What's your last question? The pressure's on.
If you had not become a football player, what do you think you would be?
If I weren't a football player, I'd want to be a teacher. I got to say this too, because we have 4 biological kids. I adopted 2 Korean boys, and then 2 African American and another white kid lived with us. And my wife, she really taught me one thing, that when you go to school in the morning, if you don't feed those kids and give them a good breakfast, they're not thinking about learning in school. So that was a lesson that I learned when I was like in my 30s. Because I'd say, "Come on, let's go, let's get out the door." My wife would say, "No, these kids are going to eat a good breakfast before they leave here. And I just mean a bowl of cereal and a piece of toast. That's better than nothing. She said, because when they go to school, if they don't have a full belly, they're not going to get a full brain. And that always hit me. And another thing I always do is I always work out every day. I do something. Do something. Get up, get off your butt and do something. So you're not just sitting there all the time.
And I think you used a good analogy, the picture with the kid.
Oh yeah, I want to use this thing. When I was a kid your age, a guy came and talked at our school. I'm going to have to get another one of these. The father was watching a professional game, okay? So he wanted to watch the game, and the kid was like 5th, 6th grade. He said, "Hey, Dad, let's go play ball. Let's go throw a ball." Dad said, "No, wait till after the halftime." Kid kept coming in, bugging him. Well, the father had a piece of paper like this, but it was a map of the world and like an atlas, okay? So he was so sick of the kid bugging him, he took the paper like this, he ripped it up in pieces, like so. He gave it to the kid, and he said, "When you put that world together, the map together correctly, I'll come out and play with you." A minute later, the paper was back like this, and the guy was amazed. He goes, "How'd you do that so quickly?" He said, "Dad, on the back side of that world, the atlas, there was a little boy." He said, "I just put the pieces of the little boy together. When I put the boy together correctly, the world fell into place." So if you kids get put together quickly and you students get put together correctly, the world will fall into place, and it'll be a better place than what we're living in right now. And we'll make it better each day, make it better. That's pretty simple, but I'm not a philosopher. I'm just a guy who played football and get an opportunity to talk to you kids. And I was a kid myself, and we've had a lot of children, so got a lot of experience.
I think that's a great place to end at. Joe, I don't know if you have any other closing things.
I don't. I would say this: keep a journal if you can. Like, it's hard to do to first get discipline, but it'll teach you a lesson in life. It'll teach you that things aren't as bad as or as good as you think they are, and it really keeps everything in perspective.
Great. And if I was to summarize kind of what Joe's talked about, as we look at those 6 pillars, and we look at, I think, one of the most important to him is the trustworthiness, because when you talk about that, you're talking about integrity and loyalty, and you've heard Joe stress about how important it is to be honest, an honest person amongst your friends, with your teachers, with your family. But you also notice, and we touched on a little bit of these, throughout Joe's life, especially even after football, is the last 2, caring and citizenship. Joe's devoted his life to giving, whether it was adopting kids, whether it was biking all the way down to Mexico to help an orphanage, whether it was helping out with the Special Olympics. The stories go on and on. We could use a 5-hour segment to go into some of the things that Joe's done, literally, because we've heard a lot of them, and I shouldn't be amazed because it's just who Joe is, but I'm always amazed. I always hear another story. Once a month I'll hear something new about you, of something that you've done that just...
My next adventure, I want you guys down south, you won't appreciate this as much. December 4th, we're doing a thing for Special Olympics, and what we're going to do is we're going to go swimming in Lake Erie. It's about 34 degrees, the lake, so it's like the polar bear jump. And the other thing is, I didn't mention this. When I was, do I got 5 seconds or 10?
Sure,
when I was playing football, and I was 28 years old, I went to Special Olympics. I didn't even know what it was. There was a fat kid walking around the track. He wasn't running. He was supposed to run a mile. So I didn't know what to do. So I jumped over the fence. I said, "Hey, Fred, let's start walking it." So he wouldn't finish. So we walked the mile. It took us 28 minutes. I went home and I told my wife, "Man, I'm glad our kids are all okay, because that kid is a problem." 3 years later, I got it's a disc right here. 3 years later, this kid kept running from the day I met him. He kept running. He lost 40 pounds. He weighed 214 pounds. He's 14 years old. He lost 40 pounds. And 3 years later in Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana, they had the Special Olympics. He ran a 6:06 mile. He won the gold medal in the Special Olympics. It's something I did. I didn't even know I did it. I had no idea that I inspired that kid. He kept running, and to this day he still runs. We do stuff with Special Olympics. He's now 45 years old. He holds down a job. He lives in a group home, and his proudest day is the day he won his gold medal, which I didn't even know I helped him. I found out 3 years later.
And now when you guys run, he helps you.
Now I run with him. We do a race in Buffalo every year. We do a 5K. He helps me around. He goes, "Come on, you can't quit. It'll ruin the story." So I gotta keep going. But those are things that you do in life you don't even realize you did. You do an act of kindness, and you find out 5 years later that it made a difference. And it taught me a lesson. That's a lesson I learned from Special Olympics.
Well, I want to say thank you to all you guys for tuning in for this new series, Heart of a Hall of Famer. We've got, for the teachers sitting in there, we've got more programs coming up. October, November, we've got Mel Blunt, Alan Page, Randall McDaniel, and others. But most importantly, we're going to live in the present, like Joe says. Let's give a round of applause for, if you can unmute your mics, let's give a round of applause for Hall of Famer Joe DeLamielleure. So, one thing Go ahead.
The names that he just named, Mel Blunt and
Alan Page
and Randall McDaniel, none of you kids know them, do you?
Teachers do.
Teachers do. Wait till you hear their stories, because they're all doing the same thing. We're all doing this exact same thing. We're former football players who nobody knows, but we're trying to do the best we can in our communities.
Great. I want to say thank you personally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
And
hope I didn't bore you.
Take care.